All right, welcome. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. on June 3rd, 2025. This is a regular city council meeting. With that being said, it is formal and the rules of decorum are strictly in place. You need to remain quiet in the chambers. You will have 2 times that you are able to speak. That's during the public comments and public hearings. And I'll let you know what those rules are as we get to those. Let me remind you that there are to be no rude or derogatory comments to any individuals. All right, with that, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please be seated. City Secretary, we have a quorum this evening with all council members present. Proof of notice of meeting, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Notice of this meeting was posted on May 30th by 2 p.m.
Great. All right, we're moving into the public comment section. If you have put your name down for a public comment, you'll come to the podium, you'll state your name, your ward, you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and your council cannot respond to you. So if you ask any questions, we cannot respond. City Secretary, do you have any public comments?
Yes, first up, we do have Darren Nance, Ward 3, addressing the City Council regarding item number 14B.
Okay,
Hello there, Nance, Ward 3. Mine was on the contractual status of Megan. I was going to speak in support of Megan. A couple of things I was just going to mention at this meeting was, to me, after being on council for 2 years, worked with Megan for 2 years, it took 2 years to accomplish a lot of the things. I remember when I first came in, I was talking about a zipper from the very start, and we just signed a contract on that 2 years later. So I'm not unsure what this on the agenda actually is for and everything else like that. All I was going to talk about is pretty much 2 concepts. First one is governance. To me is a very slow process. It took 2 years to form those relationships. It took years to move forward on a lot of projects. A couple of projects, another one, I haven't met Heather Earl, but she's here tonight. That was another one we pushed for a long time as well. So a lot of projects, you're inheriting a lot of projects that were created and everything else. The ideas from a previous council. So I hope y'all keep moving those forward. And I think it's more difficult with the change of city leadership if that's what is being looked at. The last one I was going to mention too is even working with Rick Stevens. When I first got on council, everyone gave me an opinion of Rick Stevens. Everyone has an opinion of Rick Stevens. And over 2 years, I got to form my own opinion of that. And at the end, it was tons of respect. I vote for the guy in a heartbeat because he really does care about everything here. Same thing with the other council members too, meeting Lucy and Eva too over the last year. You come into council with an idea of what these people are like, but when you really start working with them, that can change. And it's a good process. And I really do enjoy the diversity of opinion that I got. Eva is very different than me. Rick Stevens is very different than myself as well. So I think that can be a benefit to the city and not necessarily a casualty of the city. So that was really the only 2 things I was going to mention. Thank you, Council.
okay, thank you very much. City Secretary, are there any other public comments?
Yes, lastly, we have Oscar Cobos, Ward 5, addressing the council regarding item number 14B.
Okay, Oscar, come state your name, ward. You have 3 minutes. We can't respond.
Thank you, Council, Mayor, and everybody here today. It's a pleasure to be here for the people, for the record. On item 14, this is Oscar Cobos, Ward 5. On the evaluation of your city manager, and I'm sure there's a lot of good things going on. Thank you. I just wanted to touch on the base of nice little phrase that I like to use is good trouble. I wanted to say right quick that a while back you were contemplating on the buying, the purchasing of the EIV building. My understanding was solely up to your city manager to make that offer. That was it. Then we recently, the May the 20th meeting, I read online on the agenda about SGR, which is basically headhunters under the direction of your city manager again, to go out and find somebody out there through the corporate environment of Dallas-Fort Worth for public utilities director. And looking at it closely, this outsourcing and everything going on, we got to think about this once over and over again. I know you got about Horkes law firm on the computer here somewhere, the laptop somewhere. That's it. They're probably doing a fine job. But this outsourcing that will reach thousands, and I know it's not on the agenda, but it's also on the under the evaluation of your city manager. I'm gonna ask the city to bring this item to the forefront here soon, because this is very important concerning this evaluation. That the outsourcing is gonna cost thousands of money under your city manager. Also, as the city of Alpine, to be a little more transparent, because several individuals have confronted me on the salary at $157,000 for your city manager. I'm gonna ask the city to be a little more transparent in all these areas, and the outsourcing must stop. We gotta leave it to the expertise of the council for the hiring of public utilities director in all these areas before we jump into thousands upon thousands when we leave it all up to one certain person. And I thank you so much for your time. For the people here, Ward 5, Oscar Cobos. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. City Secretary, that concludes public comments. Moving on to public hearings. The rules and guidelines are the same. If you're here to speak on a public hearing, you'll come up to the podium, state your name, your ward. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Council cannot respond to you. We're beginning at 5:36. City Secretary. Public hearing A, to obtain citizen views and comments regarding the first reading of ordinance 2025-06-01. An ordinance approving rezone application 2025-06-01, amending the official zoning map of the city by rezoning the property located at 702 East Murphy, and legally described as lots 1 and 2, block 25, Hancock Addition to the city of Alpine, Brewster County, Texas. Rezoning the subject property from C1 Neighborhood Commercial District to M1 Industrial District, providing findings of fact, repeal or severability, effective date, proper notice, and hearing clauses. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Okay, please come on up. Just state your name and ward. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Crescenda Aranda. We are in Ward 4. My husband is the owner of Buddy's Auto Repair here in Alpine. We're looking to build at 702 East Murphy. We had gotten approval in 2017 to build, but some things happened and we put that on the back burner. But now we're ready, and so we approached Jessica to get the permits when we were told it zoned in the wrong zone to C1. We were advised to reapply and go to the planning and zoning and pay more money for that, which we did. And they recommended that we go into M1, and the planning and zoning said that they said yes to that recommendation. So I've heard that that's the wrong zone as well. So we're kind of like wanting to build. We're ready. We have everything to start. We just need the proper permits. We weren't aware that C1 was the wrong zone. Now we went and they needed to do it in M1, but that's apparently the wrong zone as well. So we just want to be able to do it in a timely manner. We don't want to wait like months for the approval. So basically that's it. Like we're ready to start building his mechanic shop. He's been here for over 30 years, but now he's building his own shop. And I mean, everything's ready except for the zone. We need to start getting the permits for that. I'm not sure if you have any questions or.
We can't respond.
No.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to public hearing B, to obtain citizen views and comments regarding the first reading of ordinance 2025-06-02. An ordinance approving rezone application 2025-06-02, amending the official zoning map of the city by rezoning property located at 1009 East Gallego Avenue and legally described as all of lots 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and the east 1/2 of lot 3 and 9 in block 33, Hancock Addition, south of the railroad, save and accept the north 20 Veris of lot 4 and 5, and the north 20 Veris of the east 1/2 of lot 3, block 33, Hancock Addition, south of the railroad, as the same appears in the map or plat records on file in the office of the county clerk of Brewster County, Texas, rezoning the subject property from R4 Mobile Home District to C1 Neighborhood Commercial District, providing for findings of fact, repealer, severability, effective date, proper notice, and hearing clauses. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Please come up, state your name, ward, and you'll have 3 minutes. And remember, council cannot respond.
My name is Mike Mayanes, and when the word, I don't live here in city limits, I live outside city limits, so but I have property here in, Ward 4. And, the property in question is the one you just described, Mayor. And, we owned that property since 1970. And, we were led to believe we didn't know any different, that that property was commercial. When I first found out that it was not commercial was last year in June 24, when Mr. Sean Hopper applied to build a laundromat in that same block, Mark 33. And so we were going to be out of town because of medical reasons. And so I went by the city hall and I talked to the ladies and a young man that was working there. And I could not make it to the meeting and I didn't have any objections to it being his lots to be declared commercial. And so the people that were there told me it's not commercial property. I said, it's been commercial since we bought it in 1970. Prior to that, the previous owners had a business there since 1947. There was 2 businesses there. Then when I bought the property, we had the business that is there now, the business that's there now. We had a food truck also that was there, and there was no problems whatsoever. So the property, I own 3.5 lots in the Gallego and the front end facing Gallego, and all of them, when the city made the new sidewalks in that area of town in there, I asked for entrances to be going into the properties. I have 4 entrances going into the property now at this point. Another point that I want to bring up is that that area there is, I want to say 95% commercial. You know, you got Vinnie Keith, that's on the east corner of our property, across the street from us. And then you have, that used to be the Alamo Cafe at one time, and also Lucy's Beauty Shop at one time in that block. You go to the other side, you have the food pantry.
20 seconds.
You have the food pantry, and you used to have Ed's Cleaners was there. There was a mechanics shop also in that area. And now on the far end, I think it's block 32 or block 34, 35, where Skelton's runway is located.
Okay, all right, that's your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, I appreciate the consideration.
Sure, thank you. City Secretary, public hearings end at 5:43 PM. Moving on to public presentations, there are no presentations and recognitions. There are no proclamations. Community interest items, please, City Secretary, 1 minute for each person. And if you would begin 1 minute for mayor announcements, please. All right, so I wanted to remind everybody that the 06 Cowboys play Friday night at 6 PM, Saturday night at 6 PM, Sunday at 2 PM. July 4th, celebration at the courthouse is in the process of being planned. There's a committee put together that's organizing that again this year. Last year it was fantastic and it'll be even better this year. And July 5th is the opening night of Cinderella at the theater, the outdoor theater with the Sol Ross program. And then July 23rd through the 27th is Viva Big Bend. So those are some things that are coming up in the community. Moving on to city managers announcements, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Everyone who is a Java lover, they are gonna have Coffee with a Cop on June 9th at the Vice Coffee starting at 9 AM. The police department is also hosting a blood drive June 23rd through the 24th at the police department. And in collaboration with some of the local businesses, our environmental service department and our visitor center, they have initiated the Alpine Coffee Club to help kind of reduce the waste. You can pick up a free mug available at the visitor center, and you get discounts on coffee and other things at Cedar Coffee, Vice Coffee, Joe Crow, Bread Garden Bakery, Alpine Quick Mart, and the Picnic Basket. So grab your mug.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councilmember Stevens.
I have nothing additional to add. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Councilmember Escobedo. Okay, Councilmember Lucas. Councilmember Martinez. Councilmember, okay, great. Moving on then. We're moving to changes to posted agenda. I want to mention that item 14B, which was in executive session, personnel matters 551.074 will be moved to the last action item of this evening. So it will be moved to letter I under action items. The city manager has requested that that be in open session, and she has the right to do that for deliberate evaluation of performance of city manager and consult with legal counsel regarding contractual status of city manager. With the consultations with the city attorney can be moved during that time to executive session if council so deems necessary. All right, so that'll be a big change there. And let's move to items to be continued or withdrawn. Council, are there any? Okay. Items to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion. Council, are there any? Councilmember
7B,
Stevens.
please.
Okay, so 7B, approve resolution 2025-06-04. That's by simple request, so that will be moved to item 8. City Secretary. Okay. Okay, anything else? Okay. Action items to be added to the consent agenda. Time-sensitive items. Okay, seeing none. There were no time-sensitive items. Let's move to the consent agenda. City Secretary.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's consent agenda contains 3 items. Now 2. Item A, approval of the May 20th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. And item C, approved Dowtech change order number 1 for improvements to the drying beds and clarifier at the wastewater treatment plant.
I need a motion.
Approve the consent agenda 7A and 7C as presented.
I need it. Let's vote 7A and 7C.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, the consent agenda items A and C were approved unanimously by council. All council members voted in favor. Okay, now we're moving to consent agenda item B, which has been removed for separate discussion. Councilmember Stevens.
So Mayor, I move that we approve resolution 2025-06-04 as presented.
I need a second. Okay, vote.
But the reason I put it is for discussion, please.
Right. We need to vote so we can discuss. Okay.
Aye.
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 Yeah, for discussing.
For discussion. only.
For
Okay.
discussion, yes.
This is
Remember, we do a
something
motion, second, vote. That way we can discuss. Okay.
Yes, we can discuss it now.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so I just want to understand, I don't know what we currently have, and I wonder what Angelo State's gonna do for us that we're not currently doing.
So they offer a cybersecurity program. So basically think of it like Norton antivirus on steroids. So we actually have no antivirus software besides individual computers. If the department wants to get Norton, I believe building service has it on some of theirs. AVG, which is a free service. Cybersecurity has become an ongoing kind of debate amongst all of the entities, a lot of necessity security issues. San Angelo, this was mentioned to me by former council member Darren Nansen, our new IT management service provider in regards to how are you gonna secure all of your systems and not have all these different softwares, all these different applications doing the one thing. This one is state funded. It is completely free to counties and cities within their region. So I reached out and asked them kind to explain it. So what they do is they provide the Norton. They go through Region 18, which is our management service provider. They'll put applications through that software that they're already managing on our behalf to protect all of our computers. And if we ever have a threat, if someone, hacks into one of our computers or we start getting emails that are, concerning, they'll be able to monitor and help us with all that. If we have issues and we have that, I call it the debt screen that says, if you don't give us $30, you'll get your data back. They're open 24/7 and we can call them and say, hey, we have something's going on, and they can help us with that.
So basically, we're filling a void that we've had for some time.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's why I'm glad I asked.
Councilmember Escobedo.
And it's free.
Councilmember Lucas.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, are we ready to vote on this item? Okay, if you'd like to vote to approve resolution 2025-06 04 in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Aye. All right, City Secretary Council has unanimously approved resolution 2025-06 04. All right, moving on to reports and presentations, of which there are none. Okay, information and discussion items. The first one belongs to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Item A is the revenue expense reports for December, January, February, and March. Unfortunately, our finance director is not available to speak on behalf of it. She had some medical concerns this morning, so she was on the office. So since it's an information item, the information is in the packet and it is available for the public to review as well. I'd like to go ahead and just leave it as an information, and if you need additional, please just email questions or concerns, or we can put it on the next agenda for the discussion.
Okay. Councilmember Lucas. Councilmember Portillo. Councilmember Martinez.
It would be good if she could be here, so if everybody agree, we can postpone it for the next meeting.
Okay. Councilmember Escobedo. Councilmember Stevens.
The only observation I would make is that we are under or at budget for all categories, and I think it's great news. So I think we're on track.
All right, so moving on to information discussion, item B, this belongs to Councilmember Lucas.
Yeah, leave it out.
Yes, please.
Agenda item number 10B, discuss the next steps of adopting of a proposed ordinance or amending Appendix C zoning to the Alpine City Code of Ordinance, establishing proposed updates to include amendments to general zoning regulations, land use, acceptable use, unacceptable use, minimum standards, processes, permit, and general zoning issues in the city. Repealing Chapter 78, signs, establishing a new section in Appendix C, zoning regulation signs within the corporate city limits of Alpine, providing the establishment of up to $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance. So I just wanted to bring this back up to the council. We've discussed.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's just information or discussion.
Okay.
We won't
Yeah,
take any
so I
action.
would just wanted to bring this back up to the council. Today was the last day of Texas legislation. I've been paying attention very closely to all of our zoning regulations that were going through the state. A lot of them don't really pertain to Alpine due to population, or nor Brewster County due to population. A lot of them are 150,000 and above, or 300,000 and above for the county. So I would like to see if y'all wanted to get further into this and start this ball rolling. That way we can get this approved, as well as our zoning map. We're still currently using one from 2013. This is something, when I was a building official, we had really worked on, I think, diligently for about 3 months, and then started getting it through planning and zoning. I know the city manager had stated that she wanted it to come to the council every month up until September. But with the legislation ending today, we know exactly what has been passed, what hasn't been passed, what has gone to Governor Abbott, and what has been just left pending in committees. I have a number of them listed here. If y'all were wanting to go over any of the state legislation or anything that has gone through, and just kind of see where y'all are at with the zoning ordinance. And if we can, if we need to, we got Jessica Lively, our building official, here as well. And I know she's made some further changes between the last time it was discussed and now. So if we wanted to discuss that with her as well.
Jessica, if you come on up, please. Hello, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jessica Isley, Building Official, City of Alpine. I took some suggestions from your guys' last meeting and I implemented them in this next draft that's in your packet. There were some discussions about parking and how many parking spots should be allowable. I did adjust it a little bit. So I would definitely look at that as far as, I left it pretty much the same as far as in the R1, but I did edit it for R2, R4, not R3. R3 is the apartment district. Obviously the square footage is still up for discussion. There's been back and forth. I tried really hard to take into account the strong towns and the other feedback that I've gotten from people around about issues with building. One of the things that was implemented was adding quadplex and triplex to the R2. So you'll see that added into the R2 that was not there previously. And then the edits for for the C1 is adding in the automotive idea of being able to have more automotive, just opening it up, because there's so many places that we could have those in the commercial neighborhood district that makes sense with where the zoning is. It doesn't make sense to only have it in C2. So that was edited as well. And the C2, C1A, or I'm sorry, the C1 and C1A were like for like. So I just cleaned it up and pretty much it's been cleaned up. So anything that's striked out in C1A is just anything you could do in a C1. So it's just anything, it's been pretty much under an umbrella, if that makes sense. And then also bringing up the zoning changes, there are some discrepancies, obviously with the zoning map that you guys have spoken about. We're going to bring it up here in a little bit. But changing the name from mixed residential, I don't know if it's going to be discussed later, but to match what's in our ordinance with the R2 not being 2-family district, but being multifamily, which would match more of having quadplex and triplex. So that's just a recommendation to match what our zoning map says to what our ordinance actually calls it. And so skimming through it, I found multiple things that needed to be adjusted. The more you read it, the more you find the errors. And yeah. So is there any questions for me?
Councilmember Portillo? Councilmember Martinez?
So after the discussions, we're going to put in the agenda as an action item, so we can move on, or what is the following?
So after this discussion, if you have any more changes or if everyone has had the opportunity, our ordinance policy says that we make the changes and then we give you 2 weeks to review for any additional input. There is some formatting that needs to be changed with the sign ordinance to make sure it flows correctly with the actual zoning ordinance that will need to be taken care of as well. After that 2 weeks and you've had your time to provide any additional feedback, it would go back on the agenda as the first read.
Okay, because I remember we're talking about the signs for a long time, so this is the update, so I'm okay.
Councilmember Lucas?
I've had a lot of discussion with you, when I was a building official over you about this, and then also over the last week or two, or well, I guess the last month, speaking about former council member Nance's Strong Towns philosophies, I guess. Read the book. I don't know if you ever got a chance to. A lot of good ideas, I think, with the discussions we've had and what you thought was good to put in here. I support. I think it's a really good place to start with, and then to see how hopefully developers go with. I've had the pleasure of talking to a developer over, I think, last week, and then also somebody that used to do strategic plans and stuff for cities as well. They were more hesitant, but I think they're more towards the traditional stance when it comes to zoning and stuff, protecting property values and whatnot. And so I understand that, and I guess I'm very biased towards that as well, coming from a traditional standpoint. But I think adopting smaller ADU or allowing ADUs everywhere like we've already done.
Explain what an ADU is for everybody.
An accessory dwelling unit, so like a casita in a backyard is what is more commonly known here in Alpine. So allowing those, which is actually sitting on Governor Abbott's desk already, to allow that across the state. So it really doesn't matter what we think on it anymore at this point. And then allowing the casita style homes. We've also looked at doing the cottage courts, right? Always.
I did have that in there as well.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure I had the terminology correct. So cottage courts would be permissible in R2. And what I love about that is when you're looking at doing a townhouse, duplex, triplex, or a quadplex, you have a lot of very strict fire regulations, and rightfully so. I've seen pictures of townhouses that have caught on fire. One burns to the ground, the firewall saves the one next door to it, which is phenomenal considering we have a volunteer fire department. So our response is already delayed because they have to get to the station and then to the fire. And so what the cottage court's gonna do is allow, say, a 2,000 square foot townhouse or duplex, if you will, to be broke up into, as long as it's has enough square footage on the lot, into say 4 different casitas at 500 square foot each. And what that does is it's more appealing to a developer. I talked to one and pitched this to her, and she really liked the idea. Because your ROI is, your return on investment is going to be substantially faster. Granted, your initial cost is going to be a bit more. Because you're now building 4 bathrooms, 4 kitchens, instead of just the 2, if you will. However, it negates a lot of the very expensive fire regulations, such as graded walls in between the buildings and whatnot. And then also it'll save you on plumbing because you can't puncture the membrane between the 2 buildings as well. And so now we're separating them 10 foot apart because it has to be 5 foot on both sides or from both buildings. And so as long as they maintain that 10 feet for fire separation, you can have them all on the lot, which I think will be a huge contributor to affordable housing, which we have a very, very big shortage of here in Alpine. And so I think it'll be really interesting on what our developers do and whatnot, and kind of see what they do with it. And then maybe if they approach us, look into subsidies and stuff to promote it, because we have a lot of
Bless you.
R2 that is available for these to be built in, you know, and then it also allows smaller footprints for cottage style homes. So from 1,000 to 500 square feet in the R4. And are we allowing them in R2 as well? I'm sorry, I forget.
Casitas are only allowable in R4
R4?
unless you're doing a cottage
Cottage.
style, yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
smaller
treat them like
footprints,
duplex.
because we do have a lot of people that are college students and retirees and stuff like that, and they don't need a huge house. They don't have kids anymore, want a smaller footprint. And so that'll offer more affordable housing as well, I think. And what I think is awesome is that it's a perfect median because it also protects property value, because a trailer depreciates in value, or a mobile home rather, depreciates in value over time. They're hard to maintain because they're engineered to be the way they are. A stick-built casita style home is going to actually gain value over time because it is a home, even though it's smaller. And so I think it'll help our property values in our R4 areas, which tend to be our lower income areas in Alpine. So that's what I got for it. I'm very happy with how this is evolved over time and where it's at currently.
Councilmember Escobedo,
Ready for this to move on.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yeah, thanks, and Rob and Jessica, thanks for working this. My only issue was the R1 staying at 7,000 square feet, just because I can see R1s getting squished down and go to 5,000 square feet. The rest I think is terrific. What you've done with the multifamily, the R2, what you've done with mixed use residential, and how you work C1, C2. Thank goodness for you working all that stuff. A lot of detail there. So my only issue is just the R1, the lot size.
Any other questions?
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving
Just
on.
for clarification here, so is everyone in agreement with the R1 being 7,000?
Oh. Councilmember Lucas.
In your opinion, where are we at? Because I'm sorry, I don't remember. I've slept between now and when I've
My-
been working.
Yeah, my opinion, I don't think that we should have a lot size requirement, only because there's so many lot sizes that don't meet the minimum requirements that we have right now, especially in the older districts. There's houses, old adobes on lots that they'll never be able to rebuild another house if it gets demolished. And so I've had multiple people that have lot sizes that they can't do anything with them. So as long as, for me, as building official, knowing the true setbacks for fire barriers is really what my concern is. So if you have a fire barrier between you and your neighbor and your lot size is very small, and you can still meet the requirements of the square footage of the house and the setbacks, I don't care how big your plot is. Now, you guys are city council, you can make that decision. Parking, the same thing. There was a study that came back saying that, you know, the more crammed the street, the slower the traffic is because people are parking the right of way. I personally think there's enough room in Alpine to have off-street parking, but that's your guys' decision on what the future of Alpine looks like. I think there are some places in Alpine that have parking issues, but very few, I'd say 10% or less has an issue with parking, because we are in the country. And the right of way is quite large, so I don't really see an issue with it. That's why I kind of left it open for discussion for you guys to make that decision. So
So is our R1 is, I'm sorry. go
So,
ahead.
so my concern with the R1, I agree with your point. You made all the right points. My worry is 10 years from now, people are gonna take lots that are currently 15,000 square feet and divide them into 3 that are currently as R1s. I can see those coming before council right now. Okay, I got some R2 property that immediately say 5,000 square feet, all looks is fine. I can break into replat it in 4 lots. So my worry is not what you're talking about. I'm worried about the existing R1 neighborhoods are gonna change dramatically over time when people start working that and they start seeing the opportunity. So if there's a way we can work them that says existing lots smaller than 7,000 R1, rebuild, I got no problem with that. I'm just worried about the change in footprint for existing R1 sites.
I think my only concern, because I'm with you there for sure, but you know, Senate Bill 15 changed the lot sizes for anything over 150,000 people. I think it's only a matter of time that they're gonna come down our alley and tell us, because they reduced it down, so it was gonna be I think like 1,200 square feet or something like that. Well, they ended up amending it to 1,400 square feet, and that it's getting signed by the governor.
What will be 1,400 square feet?
Lot sizes, minimum lot size, 1,400 square feet. It's insane. But yeah, but I think, you know, especially with small towns catching so much momentum, if you will, I think a lot of state legislators are really starting to adopt these ideas and pushing for them. Reading through all of these bills and monitoring them, a lot of them reflect a compromised strong towns feel. I think they're really changing, I would say, the traditional way we look at zoning dramatically.
So they're looking at that as increasing housing. Is that
Right,
what they
yeah, they
are?
want to increase.
So if you have a
population.
7,000 lot, you've got 2 houses
Yeah.
now.
Because their main focus on a lot of these bills was population density, affordable housing, housing availability. And I'm gonna say, you know, with when I went to the boat conference, the major discussion there was the I-35 corridor from San Antonio all the way up to Dallas. They're talking about, you know, if there wasn't a water restriction, that here in the next 10 years, it'd be connected all the way. But their main struggle right now is water. And so the way they're getting around it, instead of doing new developments, is increasing population density and doing infill.
Councilmember Portillo? Councilmember Martinez?
No, they did all the questions, so.
Okay. Councilmember Escobedo?
I mean, I've been hearing a lot about it and all the changes that they want.
Councilmember Stevens?
I get it. I still believe 7,000 acres, so no, I just will change. Ward 5 is gonna change dramatically. Country Club Estate's gonna change dramatically if we start doing that. And I just hate to see the character of Alpine change.
Okay, so Jessica needs clarification, council. So we need to agree on a lot size. Minimum. Do we want a minimum, first of all? Councilmember Portillo? Councilmember Martinez?
Well, we already have a minimum. We're trying to help those who can afford it a big house. So, but if it's clarified in which one zoning will be allowed a casita, so we can instead of the same amount. So if there's a clarification exactly what parts of town can be allowed. So we don't have that sophisticated on those, for many houses and.
Okay, so is that no minimum, is what you're saying?
No. Mhm.
Councilmember Lucas?
And I feel like I'm not gonna be able to help because I'm split. Because it's like, why do we move out to Alpine? So we can be further away from people and bigger lots and nicer homes and whatnot. However, speaking with Councilmember Nance and whatnot in the past, I completely understand the importance of infilling and giving citizens the opportunity to infill if they so wish and do what they want with their property. And it benefits the city with tax revenue, especially with, country club estates. If they decided to make those smaller, we'd end up generating more tax revenue, have better opportunity of being able to afford that. Wait, how long is that road, Megan? I'm sorry. Like a mile or 3 miles?
It's 2 miles.
2 miles. So 2 miles of road. So being able, which I've heard Darren Nance say, we'll never be able to generate enough tax revenue off there to be able to afford that. And so as much as I'm for the bigger lot sizes, I think, really leaving it up to the citizens on being able to choose what they want to do with that property, whether they want to split it in half or not, if they have enough property. And then to bring in a lot of these nonconformities into conformity so they can actually do something with it would be superb. So I think I sway to the lesser lot size.
Councilmember
I'm
Escobedo.
with him because I have been hearing, that's all they've talked in the mornings of the radio. I mean, that's all you see on the news.
Okay, so is there a number that so it was no lot minimum is what you were directing Jessica to do? Okay,
So that's for an R1, and then the other, so we need to clean up the sign, make sure that those numbers, the sections are changed to match. And then the addition of the definitions of quadplex and triplex. Because right now it's only duplexes.
okay, so what question do you need to ask
So
council?
I'm just saying that we'll clean up and then
Oh,
we'll get it
you
before
come back to us.
council,
Okay.
for you to review for 2 weeks.
And then parking, I removed parking from all of them except for R1.
So what is your question for council regarding parking?
Would you like me to continue to put the minimum 2 parking spaces? Or do you want it to remove there's no parking requirement needed for a build?
Hey, Councilmember Ruckus, since this was your item, what's your thought?
I'm fine with that. You'll notice in the R1s, most people have garages or carports and driveways, so I don't think there's gonna be an
To
issue.
remove it?
You would have more to say about that, which.
Councilmember
is pretty
Stevens,
good.
Councilmember Stevens,
I leave the 2 spots for our ones, so I'm fine with this.
Councilmember Escobedo. Councilmember Martinez,
2 parking for.
Councilmember Portillo,
So keep the 2 parking?
Mhm.
anything else?
That's the other parts on zoning.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Okay,
What if they have their, oh,
yeah, you might as well, because I'm sure we'll have questions for you. Okay, so the next discussion item is mine. It's discuss the status of the updated zoning map and steps to get the updated zoning map approved. So if you guys would kindly, council, turn to page 210 of 256, the number's at the bottom of your packet. Where it has this item, it's right before action items. So 210 of 256 listed at the bottom of the page. Okay, if you'll note, this is the summary of where this item has been and what has been going on. So as you know, the first, after reviewing the archives, it was determined that the first official zoning map was adopted in 1968. And the ordinance there is listed. Only 2 official zoning maps have been adopted by the city, the one in 1968 and then another one in 2013. So we are currently working on the 2013 zoning map. And as you know, that was 12 years ago. So there have been a lot of changes. That map is outdated. On November 1st, 2022, Planning and Zoning was tasked with making adjustments going back from 2013 and looking at everything, all of the zoning changes that were made from 2013. It took Planning and Zoning quite a while to do this. It was very tedious as they went through and noted all the changes and made those. June 19th, 2023, Commissioner Walter, the chair of P&Z, Planning and Zoning, submitted the list of changes since 2013 after he had gone through all of that information. So it took almost a year. 2023, the city submitted these zoning changes to the Rio Grande Council of Governments to assist in developing the zoning map. 2024, the commission held a discussion on the official zoning updates. July, a couple of months later, a few months later, a workshop was held to review the draft zoning map reflecting those changes since 2013. In September of 2024, the commission further discussed the draft zoning map. October 2024, the commission considered and approved a recommendation to the city council to adopt the updated zoning map prepared by the Rio Grande Council of Governments. So planning and zoning approved it and sent it to council. It came before council December 3rd to adopt. Council considered the resolution, but ultimately denied it, citing concerns related to the removal of the C21A zoning designation and proposed amendments to Appendix C zoning of the city code. In 2025, Councilmember Stevens sponsored a discussion item to revisit the plan and schedule for update the zoning map. And so the item is back for us to look at. So the thought is, we're using 2013. There have been a lot of changes since 2013. It's understandable that even this 2024 zoning map, because we're still in the process of talking about zoning, is going to have changes. But those changes are far less than the amount that we've had since 2023. And as a citizen of Alpine, if I were to call and ask about zoning, get information from 12 years ago that may or may not be accurate anymore, I would not be happy. You know, in the 2024 one, even though it still is going to have to be amended, the changes are far smaller than what they are. So City Secretary, have you had anybody who has called and has noted that it was 2013 that we were working off of?
Yes, every so often they make comments, and then I ran into an issue recently with Mr. Pionis. It took me 2 weeks to recognize Sean Hopper had rezoned commercial. That was a recent rezone though in the last year or so, so it's understandable. I don't think it would have been updated on the map anyway, included in those updates. But it would be beneficial, I think, to have something, you know, approved, official, that is more accurate and up to date.
And I was just thinking, we as a council need to do that. I mean, 2024 versus 2013. I don't know about how you guys feel about that, working off of the 2013 map. So I'm going to open it up to discussion. Councilmember Stevens.
So the last time we talked about it in March, where I thought we were going, strategy was get the zoning updated. And then because we still were looking at it, we changed it from an R4, whatever it's called today, to an R4 mixed use. We're gonna smash all that together. My sense is the discussion we just had would now allow us to bring both the updated zoning ordinance and the zoning map back to the next meeting and just say, okay, now we got it, let's do it. But that's what the strategy was last in March, and we're just waiting for the legislature to do its thing. So I would think meeting after next, Megan, or how long will it take to get the zoning one updated?
It'd probably take a couple days. Really the biggest part is gonna be the sign, making sure that's all structured appropriately. And then did you want planning and zoning to look at the zoning map again with the additional changes that have been approved since then? Since Matt Walter did his portion, and then Jessica in discussions, I think last week or Monday or this week, she pointed out a few more things that would need to be corrected as well. So if you want to go back to planning and zoning, they meet at the end of the month.
Okay. So what are your thoughts, council? Do we want it to go back to planning and zoning with the additional changes?
I think we need to move forward. Go ahead and get it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Councilmember Burgess.
I think my consensus is because y'all are gonna need time, and I think the deadline for the next meeting is tomorrow night. So I think it's more realistic that it goes to P and Z for their meeting this month, and then it comes to us first meeting in July for first reading.
Councilmember Stevens.
Good with that.
Jessica.
I'm okay with that.
All right. Okay, so that's the plan.
Yes.
Okay, first meeting in July. All right, great deal. All right, moving on. Let's go ahead because we're coming up on an hour and about 10 minutes. Let's take a 5-minute break at this time. City Secretary at 6:19. We'll reconvene at 6:24. Okay, with that, break. Break.
Ah.
Last night.
We didn't say that this time.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew better. I saw the agenda, I'm like, yeah, no.
Did that go through?
Not with.
Move on to the next thing.
Action items.
They're just gonna have the things. It's been a lot of. Well, he's been trying to get a hold of them. I
talked to the guy who owns the property.
zone it.
So that we have to do, so it's a C1, it's a C1, and that one's.
There's a house. That was a commercial.
It is commercial. I think it is.
But light shop.
The only thing left
And I was
on
like.
that street, just talk about it, is the one house.
I know there's a lot of people. Yesterday I walked up and. Like, so.
I just- We got two dogs.
All right, we have 2 minutes remaining. Joe, Megan, then you pick who first. Wow.
January 9th is Friday.
Is it?
Whatever.
I think so.
And they left there.
When is January 9th?
They have coffee with the police.
June.
Oh, June. I was like, January 9th, it's on my way.
Yeah, he's like.
A Friday?
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
This month, tonight is Monday.
It's a Monday, yeah. At what time is that?
9th,
Oh, I have School Ross Advisory Group.
I have a rosary, that's what I knew that it was for the week.
Oh. Okay, 1 minute remaining. Okay, 6:23, what did I say, 6:24? Okay, City Secretary. Okay, it is now 6:24. We are back in session. We're moving on to action items. Action item A belongs to City Manager.
Approve the first reading of ordinance 2025-06-01. An ordinance approving rezone application 2025-06-01. Amending the official zoning map of the city by rezoning the property located at 702 East Murphy and legally described as lots 1 and 2, block 25, Hancock Addition, to the city of Alpine, Brewster County, Texas, rezoning the subject property from C1 Neighborhood Commercial District to M1 Industrial District, provide findings of fact, repealer, severability, effective date, proper notice, and hearing clauses.
Motion,
I'll make a motion.
I need a second. Okay, and discussion, city manager.
This item was presented at the last city council meeting for discussion as well as planning and zoning. Planning and zoning on May 19th did approve the rezoning request. Mr. Pianis has been to both meetings to discuss, I'm sorry. Mr. and Mrs. Aranda have been to both meetings to discuss. I'm ready for the next one. They're looking at building a mechanic shop. They did provide you the background with initially having it rezoned in 2017. In discussions with planning and zoning, it was determined that the original C1 does not allow for the automotive facility. So the recommendation was to be an M1. Concerns from city council at the last meeting was in discussion with particularly the M1 and the location within the residential area.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councilmember Martinez.
My question is how we can help them because they were approved before and now they wanted to change it again. So what we as council can do to help them so they can open their shop and move on. So if it's M1 is good for the city, I will go for M1 because I don't understand it was already approved and they wanted to change again. So we need to support your business. So my question is how we can help them. So what we can do to help them.
So the recommendation at the time was incorrect. They should have been zoned to C2, but then you have the issues with spot zoning as well. The M1 does allow for the mechanic shop and it does fall in line with not having a spot zone because it's contiguous to the property that's nearby. So for council to move forward with this support would be to rezone it as an M1, or the options that were discussed at the last city council meeting would be to redo the zoning as part of the zoning update and allow it to be within a C1. So those were the two discussions. As far as the timeline, obviously approving the first reading tonight with an M1 does move it up faster, whereas you still have to approve the ordinance with the zoning conditions.
Because it is more commercial buildings around there, right? No.
Or not.
The BFW. Well, I go for what is sooner for them to approve it because if we keep waiting and change it, all the updates, they're going to get old and never will be able to open the shop. So I just see what we can do to help them. So if it's M1, I'm going for M1.
Okay, Councilmember Lucas.
So I'm with Councilmember Martinez with this, but I think my proposition is, and I inquired with the building official to see if she'd be all right with it, and I'd be interested to see what y'all's thought would be on it as well. Since it's clearly a deficiency on the city's part that we misguided them at one point to go to C1 instead of needing to be C2 with this, is to one of two ways: either allow it to go to M1, and Rick Stevens and I at the last meeting had voiced our concern about allowing M1 to go into the residential, trying to preserve the integrity of that residential area. However, with our zoning ordinance, and none of us having an issue with it, allowing it to be permissible in a C1 to allow them to move forward, knowing that that's coming through. Our building official said she was good with that. And refunding them their rezone and allow them to move forward from this point on their stuff. They have a long process regardless, you know, with plan review, permit fees and finding trades and everything to get this process going, acquiring materials and whatnot. It is a tedious process, especially being out here in Alpine. So those are my two propositions, because I'm all for the business. They're trying to do it the right way. And I highly respect that. And because you rent, we can bring them up now.
Yes, you may.
Yeah. You currently rent, sir?
Come on up
Yeah.
to the podium, please. So it'll be on the recording.
And from my understanding, your rent is increased,
Yeah, sure.
so your overhead's increased. And so your overhead's increased, so therefore your prices are gonna increase. And so going to another place, you can potentially get your
Right.
overhead down, your prices where they are, and it's more beneficial to the city, no?
Exactly.
So, and that's what I'm for. I'm completely for that. So I don't know if y'all are in agreement with that or not. what do
You
y'all-
restate that so council knows exactly what you're saying.
So either allow, since we are going forward, we're looking at our first meeting in July, rather, for our first reading in, for the zoning ordinance to go through, which will allow him to do this under the C1, his current zoning. And then second reading will be second meeting in July, and then it'll be codified from there. And so they'll be within the parameters of our ordinance. So allow them to move forward under the current zoning, knowing that that is coming to fruition, if you will. And refund them their rezoning fee that they had to pay for having to do this, since it was ultimately the city's fault that they're in this predicament. And I would like to make it right. This happened a couple times, and I don't think it should be just like, oh, sorry, and then just waved on. Or if y'all aren't for that, I'm for allowing it to go to M1, even though I'm hesitant on allowing M1 to slowly start making its way through a residential neighborhood.
So after council discussing, then you would make an amendment one way, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. All right, so that Councilmember Escobedo,
I'm with option one,
which is
not the.
To allow.
to go allow as is, knowing that
Yes.
it's gonna move forward, okay? Councilmember Portillo,
First motion, but forward.
Councilmember Stevens,
So
Uh-oh.
I would propose that we amend the motion to allow them to proceed forward with putting the automotive on the C1 property and allow that variance until such time as city council approves the change to the zoning ordinance, and that city council refund them their fee for rezoning.
and Councilmember Martinez.
I agree 100% with that.
Okay, would you
Check.
like to, who would like to make the,
Motion.
okay, so restate it, please.
So,
Okay.
well, I say this twice now.
Uh-huh.
So I propose we amend the motion to allow them to continue forward with the automotive shop on the C1 property. And authorize the building official to proceed forward with those activities for the next 3 months, thereby allowing city council to amend the zoning ordinance to include automotive within the existing zone of the C1 for that property, and that the city refund their fee for the zoning change.
Okay,
I'll say.
second. All right, any discussion? Okay, let's vote on the amended motion.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary Council voted on the amendment unanimously. Do you need it restated? You have it.
No. thank you.
Okay, now we need to dispose of the original motion as amended.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, we disposed of the original motion as amended. Unanimously.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. All right, action item B, City Manager.
Approve the first reading of ordinance 2025-06-02, an ordinance approving rezone application 2025-06-02, amending the official zoning map of the city by rezoning the property located at 1009 East Gallego Avenue and legally described as all of lots 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and east 1/2 of lot 3 and 9, and block 33 Hancock Addition, south of the railroad, save and accept the north 20 various of lots 4 and 5, and north 20 various of east 1/2 of lot 3, block 33 Hancock Addition, south of the railroad, as the same appears in the map of plat records on file in the office of the county clerk of Brewster County, Texas, rezoning the subject property from R4 Mobile Home District to C1 Neighborhood Commercial District, providing findings of fact, repealer, severability, effective date, proper notice, and hearing clauses.
Okay, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve it as presented.
Okay, I need a
I
second.
second.
Okay, discussion, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So this item was also discussed at the last city council meeting. Mr. Payanis has come before the council requesting the application or his property to be rezoned. Planning and zoning did make the recommend to approve the rezone request. At the last city council meeting, there were no concerns raised by the council upon his request from an R4 to a C1.
Okay, Councilmember Escobedo,
So we just need to approve it.
Councilmember Stevens,
It's a no-brainer.
Councilmember Lucas,
It's contiguous. I have no issues.
Councilmember Martinez.
I agree, you just have to invite us when you reopen it again.
Councilmember Portillo,
Ready to move forward with this.
let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, Council unanimously approved the first reading of ordinance 2025-06-03. Okay, moving on to action item D, City Manager.
Approve the first reading of ordinance 2025-06-03. An ordinance amending chapter 90 taxation, article 5 short-term rentals to the Alpine Code of Ordinances. Amending rules and regulations regarding short-term rentals within the city limits. Providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance. Providing for the following findings of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, savings, severability, proper notice and meeting and effective date clauses.
I need a motion.
Approve the ordinance as presented.
I need a discussion, City Manager.
This item was also presented for discussion. Some of the things that were changed from the last meeting to this one is we did include the section that was requested by city council. That if it wasn't conforming property, that it would not be allowed to operate as an STR. The other things that were spoken about last time, of course, was the parking, the zoning requirements, and then the change in the fee schedule, removing that from the fees being outlined within the ordinance and putting them into a fee schedule. And it being the same fee for both the initial and the renewal.
Great. Councilmember Stevens,
I have no additional comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Lucas,
Neither do I think.
Councilmember Portillo. Councilmember Escobedo. Councilmember Martinez.
No comments.
Let's vote.
Aye.
City Secretary, Council approved the first reading of ordinance 2025-06-03 unanimously. Moving on to action item D, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Approve the first reading of ordinance 2025-06-04. An ordinance amending chapter 46, fire prevention and preservation, article 2, fire prevention code, section 46 to 43. Violations to reflect the fire permit inspection fee set may be set by annual city council resolution, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, providing for the following findings of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, savings, severability, proper notice of meeting, and effective date clause.
I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second. Discussion, City Manager.
So this one was also brought up at the last meeting for discussion. This one, we've noticed that when we amend or change one ordinance, we need to make sure it doesn't affect other ordinances that are in the city's ordinances. This one does in regards to kind of the short-term rental. There was a part of that tied to this. So we're updating this one as well. The recommendation from staff was to go ahead and put it into a fee schedule, with specifically that we were going to have it, third-party inspection.
Okay. Councilmember Lucas,
I have no questions.
Councilmember Portillo. Councilmember Stevens.
Good.
Councilmember Martinez,
I'm okay.
Councilmember Escobedo.
Aye.
Let's vote.
Aye.
City Secretary, Council unanimously approved the first reading of ordinance 2025-06-04. Moving on to action item E, City Manager.
Thank you. Approve the first reading of ordinance 2025-0605. An ordinance amending chapter 10, animals of the Alpine Code of Ordinances, amending section 10-48, registration of dogs and cats, amending section 10-49, finders of lost dogs and cats, amending section 10-50, dead animals duty to remove, amending section 10-52, keeping of wild animals and exotic animals, providing amended language to provide additional clarification throughout the chapter, providing update to animal department and facility titles within the city, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, and providing for the following findings of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, savings, severability, proper notice of meeting, and effective date clause.
I need a motion.
We approve the first reading of the ordinance as presented.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, discussion, City Manager.
So this one was also presented at the last meeting. Some of the key points that are being amended are the changes, animal service, finder of the lost animals, dead animals and the responsibility of the removal, keeping of wild and exotic animals. At the last meeting, there was no concerns from City Council.
Okay, Councilmember Portillo? Councilmember Escobedo?
Okay.
Councilmember Lucas?
I'm good.
Councilmember Stevens?
My only concern is always about Rosie, so long as we're there, I'm good.
Okay, and Councilmember Martinez.
No question.
Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
All right, City Secretary Council unanimously approved the first reading of ordinance 2025-06-05. Moving on to action item F, City Manager.
Approve resolution 2025-06-01, a resolution appointing members of the Alpine City Council to ex officio positions on city's boards, commissions, and committees.
I need a motion.
So moved as presented.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion, City Manager.
At the last meeting, we discussed, since we had the 2 vacancies with our newly elected officials coming in, the opportunity for council to rearrange the positions in which they were wanting to sit. Parks and Recreation Board is Richard Portillo. Animal Advisory Board is Evo Olivas. Planning and Zoning is Robert Rucas. Building and Standards is Lucy Escobedo. Hotel Occupancy Tax Committee is Rick Stevens, and the Music Advisory Board is Mayor Kathy.
Okay, Councilmember Stevens, Councilmember Lucas,
No, ma'am.
Portillo, Councilmember Martinez.
Just a correction is Consul Eva Martinez de Olivas.
Oh, is that why we were choking over here? I thought I was gonna put the highlight removed. And Councilmember Escobedo. Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
City Secretary Council voted unanimously to approve resolution 2025-06-01. Moving on to action item G, City Manager.
Thank you. The next item is to approve resolution 2025-06-02, a resolution approving the payment in lieu of taxes for the Alpine Housing Authority for fiscal year 2026 through 2023.
I need a motion.
Propose the resolution as presented.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion, City Manager.
The city has historically waived the payment in lieu of taxes. I do have Ms. Elba Torres here this evening if there are additional questions. So they don't pay property tax in the same way other residents would pay or other entities would or wouldn't pay. The city 5 years ago approved waiving their payment in lieu of taxes. It is a percentage of their income. Earlier today, I did provide the city council with some additional documentation from the Alpine Housing Authority. You'll notice that they do not bring in a lot of income for their housing facilities. So I'm recommending that the city continue to waive the payment in lieu of taxes for another 5 years.
Councilmember Martinez.
I agree.
Okay, Councilmember Stevens,
I think it's good service for the city. I agree.
Councilmember Escobedo,
I agree.
Councilmember Lucas,
I'll second.
Councilmember Portillo.
Also,
Let's vote.
aye.
City Secretary Council voted unanimously to approve resolution 2025-06-02. Okay, moving on to action item H, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Approved resolution 2025-06-03. A resolution appointing City Council Member Ward 5, Rick Stevens, to serve as the City Council representative of the Alpine Public Library Board.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I need a second. Okay, discussion, City Manager.
So at the last meeting, we discussed the different boards and commissions, including those that aren't directly under the city. The city has historically had a representative on the Alpine Public Library Board with Mr. Stone stepping down. It was discussed to have Rick Stevens take that place.
Hey, Councilmember Stevens, since this is about you.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Lucas, Councilmember Portillo, Councilmember Martinez,
I'm okay.
Councilmember Escobedo. Let's vote.
Aye.
City Secretary Council voted unanimously to approve resolution 2025-06-03. Okay, moving on to the next action item, which will be action item I. This is removed from executive session, which is number 14B on the agenda. 14B was put on deliberate evaluation of performance of a city manager and consult with legal counsel regarding contractual status of the city manager by Councilmember Ruckus. Okay, so I need, by the way, the city manager sent us a message this evening saying that she preferred to have this in open session, which is allowed. So that's why we are having it now. Okay, I need a motion.
Make a motion.
I need a second.
I second.
Okay, and so discussion, Councilmember Lucas.
So best I can tell, generally evaluations were typically done in April. I don't know why it wasn't done this past April. And so I thought, section 5.1 in our contract says that she should be evaluated. I personally like to be evaluated annually. Keeps me calibrated on where my employer thinks I need to be. Also with her contract coming up in September, I also thought it was fitting that since we needed to do an evaluation, that we'd also discuss where direction we're going with the contract. Are we gonna allow it to automatically renew come September? Are we going to renegotiate, or what direction that we want it to go for with it?
Councilmember Portillo,
There needs to be what we need.
okay. Councilmember Martinez,
I have that question that about evaluation. I'm new, I've been here a year. And I didn't know how often they were doing the evaluation, so it was something that I was thinking or concerned me about the evaluation. So since I've been here, we haven't do the evaluation. I don't know how often you do. So.
yes, annually. Councilmember Escobedo,
I think my first question would be, you became city manager in March of 22.
21. Oh, no,
22.
So in May of 21, or May of 2021, the city manager at the time was terminated, and I was appointed as interim. The city didn't provide me with an official contract or the position until.
And this contract is for 3 years.
Yes,
so it's coming up in
September of 2020.
Councilmember Escobedo.
My other questions have been, and I think I've asked them a few times. On the outsourcing, I think that there should be things that a city manager should be doing. We're constantly paying somebody else to do it. I'm not sure why that is even happening, because I feel that if we were to gather all of those entities that we're paying out money to, I wonder how much money that would be altogether. I wasn't here when council decided to approve the amount that you're getting paid. I think it's a lot for the city of Alpine. I do have a lot of people asking me and telling me, why is that being allowed? I wasn't here when that happened. Those are two of my biggest concerns.
Okay, if you have more, we'll come back to you. Councilmember Stevens.
So I agree, we ought to do an annual process. That's one thing we ought to do. And Megan has a set of goals and objectives. In my view, the way in which we've done this in the past, we get a copies of those goals and objectives for rating. We get the opportunity to talk about them and give feedback to Meg. I think it's a healthy process. You're talking to an HR guy, used to have 175,000 people working in my organization. So it's a process you kind of got to work your way through, but part it's going to be dialogue back and forth. So I would hope we'd start heading forward with that process. I've read through the contract. I've also read through the city charter. There are some differences between the two that need to get cleaned up. So I think the opportunity to work that is on the table. We have plenty of time in my view. Here we are in June, so I would think, we ought to schedule a discussion in July that gives Megan the opportunity to say, here are my goals and objectives, get them out. I know Mayor in the past, you've been the one who's kind of facilitated.
Yeah, the
that.
charter says the mayor, yes.
Yeah, so, but I think Rob putting it on the table is the right thing to go do, and let's go have the discussion.
Okay, Councilmember Lucas, what else did you have?
Because if we're gonna go about it that way, I can save my questions for then. I had a number of questions for you. I didn't really know how this process was going. That's why I wanted to do it in an executive session, so we can just have private dialogue with you and kind of see where we were wanting to go with it. So if we want to do that, I don't know about July.
There's a deadline with the contract, I
Yeah.
think, right?
August 7th. Cause I'm with you, and if we're gonna go that route, it needs to be cleaned up, which, we have to give, proper notice to do that, or it automatically renews for a year. I'm not for it automatically renewing personally. I don't know where y'all stand with that. I think it needs to be discussed and, get our attorney involved as well. And, come to a general consensus and a proper evaluation. Me personally, I would also like to do since we're gonna push it off, do a survey as well. One thing that has been brought to my attention numerous times since I've gotten in council, it's a little exhausting that it's coming this way. And my question is to the said individuals, why haven't you gone to your prior council members? And the answer is continuously the same. Couldn't trust the council to handle the situation,
Are you talking employees?
employees and citizens. Which is kind of alarming to me. So I would like to do, if y'all are for it as well, to do a survey for our employees predominantly. Our morale is extremely low. We can have the most fantastic city manager in the world. And if we don't have a team under that city manager that's willing to work with them, we have a bigger issue at hand. And unfortunately, that's kind of the general consensus from what I've gathered with people coming to me over the last month and a half. Is we have a number of people looking at going elsewhere, and we can't run without everybody under her, you know. So I think there's some issues that need to be addressed there. And finding the root of the issue, you know, is my major concern. Because my thing is, I would be hesitant to say it's compensation, considering we just did a compensation study. I know people have voiced that they weren't entirely or I guess satisfied with the way the compensation study was handled and the outcome of said compensation study. A lot of citizens, we've had one speak out about the transparency. Her pay was redacted from it for whatever reason, it wasn't in there. And so there needs to be a sense of transparency there as well, which I also agree with. And so I think, you know, if we are going to delay it, all of this needs to be brought to the table and discussed in depth. How do y'all feel about doing a internal survey with the city employees and see why we have morale, what they think about our leadership?
So are you suggesting something like an anonymous survey
Yes.
through Survey Monkey, some
Yeah.
type of website?
Absolutely.
For it. And can I piggyback on that? Because I've been approached also with the same things, and I just didn't know how to come about all this without, you know, because I am new to the council, but since he brought it up, I've been approached quite a bit with the same thing, and we just gotta figure out what the problem is, you know, and get to the bottom of it and figure it out, you know. But I am with Rob on doing a anonymous survey. I think we need to do that within the city.
Just employees, are we talking, or are we talking open it up to citizens?
If you want to open up to citizens.
What are your thoughts?
Councilmember Martinez?
Yeah.
Well, what I see is, we need a day for the evaluation. It is a question about the salary, and now it's about this evaluation. I think if people have questions, it should be the employees, so we can clean up all those misunderstandings so they can perform a better job working together. So if they feel scared that they can be fired, so don't put the name, but I think it's mainly for the employees, so everybody can work better, so we want to retain the employees. If they're not happy, we need to find why they're not happy. We're already paying good money, I think so.
Councilmember Escobedo?
I do think we not only need to ask the employees, but I do think we need to bring it up to the public. That is very important. I get the same questions that they've been asked, I'm sure. It's something that comes up all the time. Now is the perfect opportunity.
Councilmember Stevens?
So I have a lot of thoughts on the subject. I wasn't on council. I don't think any of us were when the contract was put together for Megan. No one was allowed to get involved with that. I expressed a lot of concern back then. But council kept that private and we were not included in that discussion. That's one. And two, I know there's concern about Megan's salary. You know, I've been in this business a long time. If you go do the salary surveys, I think that'll be appropriate to go do that because I think there's some misperceptions about whether Megan is paid fairly and equitably given the size of the city or not. The data I looked at, because I did a lot of years, she's right within the midpoint in terms of what you get for a city this size. So I think part of it is we have to be fair and open about the data and share that with everyone, because I think there's some misperceptions about what's going on. I think relative to employees, there are always two sides to the story, and having gone through, I've been involved with 1, 2, 3, 4 city managers in my time on council. And it's interesting in terms of how individuals portray what's going on. I would hope that we think about how do we make this a fair and equitable discussion. Because I know there's employees been fired for drugs and they were very disgruntled. And I get that. You're fired for drugs. Yeah, the dog's hit in your truck and you're to get fired. I view it seems perfectly fair for that to occur. Getting people to this town has been tough, and keeping them here to work in a city leadership position is a difficult situation. And having been on council, whether we brought someone in from the outside, and that was a disaster. So I think having a process that we think about that includes the city manager in that dialogue would be an important part. Because Frank, I agree. I think we should have got this dialogue like in the April timeframe. We're behind, and we got some catch-up ball to go do. I would offer one other piece of data. The city of Alpine has a budget of $17 million. We have 100 employees. There aren't many around who is actually running a $15 million a year enterprise with over 100 employees. And so I think we have to ask ourselves, how do we fairly and equitably work that? So I go back to where I was. Yeah, we ought to go do an evaluation. We had to have Megan bring our goals and objectives. We had to go work it. I get a little concerned, I guess, having been approached by many city employees. I get a little bit concerned about some of the things I hear. And I've gone and worked both sides of the fence. We have to be very specific. We hear things and hear the other side of the story, because I've learned in my time on council, people are driving the plane, then we hear the other side of the story. I'm glad they're gone. So I think we've got some work to go through. How we go do that, not entirely clear, but we ought to get the ball rolling. I think it first starts with making goals and objectives. How we gather data. Boy, I don't know how to do that in this town. I really don't. And get an objective input. So those are my thoughts.
Okay. So we're considering a survey of employees, current employees, not past, fired, et cetera,
Correct.
an anonymous survey. So how would we go about doing that if we wanted to add that to part of the review process?
I think you need to go ask an outside firm. I don't believe we on this dais have the competency to go do that. I really don't. And I said, you're talking to a guy who had tens of thousands of employees, and I've been down this path a lot. I don't think we have that. I think if we're going for a climate survey, we have to think about what are we trying to measure? And it can't be a witch hunt. It's gotta be about how do we improve the operation of the city? How do we give feedback to whoever leading the organization? I just don't think we have the skill set to go do that. So I think we need to go find a third party.
I don't know. I don't think I agree with that. I think we're intelligent enough that we could come up with some questions, working with Megan to put out there in a survey that would judge, what's going on with the average employee. We wouldn't leave Megan out of the process. She would need to help us come up with
She's
the
part of the process.
questions.
I'm good.
Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Is Megan able to answer on?
Yeah. We'll let her talk in a second. I mean, if you have a question for her now, go ahead and ask.
No.
Okay.
Probably do within ourselves here, figure it out.
I mean, I've done many evaluation processes throughout my career as a secondary educator and a college professor. It's easy to create objective ones. Councilmember Ruckus?
My concern with going outsourcing would be the bit of a time crunch that we have. And what that's gonna look like, trying to source somebody, and then also what the fee would be to do it in the allotted time that we have. And so I think collectively and utilizing our attorney, we can put our heads together, figure something out, and get it pushed out to employees and citizens if that's what we're wanting to do, to see what their thoughts are on the way they feel on how the city's being ran. I'm not super optimistic about our citizens outlook, but employees, I would definitely be.
Definitely. So we can discuss the citizens part, whether
Yeah.
we want that or not.
But it is important.
It is very much is important.
I mean, we have an obligation to not only the employees, but also to the citizens.
So Gio, can you add this to the agenda for the next meeting? And Megan, would you like that in open session or executive? We're working. Okay, so just leave it open-ended for now. Councilmember Stevens?
Can I throw one other item in there? You know, the council went through and did a strategic planning session, 3 years ago? We ought to get feedback about how we're doing
Yes, absolutely.
relative to that strategic plan. Because I think it's an important part of the dialogue if we're gonna be successful about how we think about that, because I think that's a big piece of
Right.
how people look at the city as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I agree. That's not part of this discussion, but yes, I agree. I know as an educator, I get evaluated by my students and always have. So I think it's important. That's how you grow. That's how you get feedback. Thinking about what Councilmember Escobedo and what our citizen Oscar Cobos said as far as outsourcing. I think the city manager was instructed at the last meeting to hold off on that and to look more at somebody who's permanent. So it's gonna cost quite a bit of money if they're here for a year, at least 144,000 in salary, but yet we seem to be moving forward. So I just wanted to point that out.
So I'd like to comment on that too, Mayor.
Okay,
So we have been without a utilities director now for 16 months.
all right.
Okay, and there needs to be some help to go work that. Sure, certainly it costs money to outsource, and I agree, outsourcing. But we have really struggled. We can't get anyone to step up to the table. And so to continue to push that out and say, hey, city manager, suck it up. I think that's a little bit difficult on our part to not recognize. I think I'm in favor of, let's go get a firm to find someone, because in spite of all of the troubles, we've had one person come forward and they had a medical issue. Getting someone in the short term, I think makes sense, because we try to get Johnny to step up. We actually paid him some additional money. And Johnny says, I don't do that anymore. So, and none of us can do it. So we're struggling. Can't find anyone.
Councilmember Escobedo?
I think we should put the position up. Again,
And
Not
what's your
up.
thoughts on the SGR?
put it on hold until we see if somebody else will apply.
Councilmember Ruckus?
Like My main question, I guess, I don't know how it really ties in, I guess with the SGR and outsourcing it is, do we not have anybody else other than Johnny that is qualified, that has licensing? We don't. At all. So what licensings are required?
The city's actually removed the licensing, and asked for 7+ years of documentation.
Right, but what licensing is required? I'm sorry.
For the city man. or
Right,
city
I know,
council
but
removed it.
I mean, what would be?
Under the current position, no
No.
licensing.
No licenses.
The recommendation is
Right.
to get the water and wastewater seats.
C's, okay,
Which
and
is
we don't have
recommendation.
anybody with C's?
Johnny.
And he's the only one,
And then Richard has a B in,
wastewater? And Richard's not willing to step up? We don't have anybody else, with anything. Struggle. So what's our dilemma there? Why don't we have,
most of those employees have been here less than.
and then Mike, he's with Richard as well out in wastewater, and he's working under, Richards, he doesn't have a license?
He has, I believe, his C wastewater.
Okay, so he would be qualified with that license and he's not willing to step up?
I haven't reached back out to him. I know at one point he had thought about it.
So he's thought about it, but we haven't,
He hasn't actually applied.
okay.
But I'm gonna
Maybe, we-
put him on the spot.
yeah, I mean, I don't mean to put him on the spot or anything. I think we should reach out to
But I would
him.
like to get back on track, that
Yeah.
that conversation is part of my performance.
It is part of your performance because I feel like you were moving forward, even though council asked you to stop and wait. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did
and I guess especially going into performance, why we wouldn't be more encouraging to our employees to move up. I could see that affecting morale dramatically if I was in a position to where I didn't think I could move up whatsoever at all, and my boss is constantly outsourcing the positions that I could potentially get promoted in, especially if I had the license. I definitely wouldn't be here for very long either if I didn't see any kind of advancement opportunities whatsoever at all. So that is a bit alarming to me.
So Mike works
With Richard and wastewater. Yeah.
so he's had the C license this whole time?
In wastewater, not water.
And does Johnny have wastewater as well, or he's just water?
His last.
Okay. So to me, that's a,
So we
Would be
do
a-
have people that are qualified within the company, within the city. Just no one stepped up. And so we gotta figure out why don't they, when you could look at getting promoted within the company to make more money and do what you need to do, to move up in the city. I don't understand why no one's applying or wanting to,
Councilmember Martinez?
From, that, people that were reaching out, it was anybody interested in be permanent here, or they were just temporary? All they want to be temporary.
There was 2 different options, temporary. and
Did anybody want to be permanent?
We haven't gone that direction.
Okay, then.
this year. That would be on the next agenda for approval
Okay.
and move forward with having them do the full search for a full time.
Can we see, we can convince those employees, to see if they will be interested, if they don't, and then we have to find somebody. So we need to keep looking, if we don't find it here locally. Because we need somebody in that position, it's very important.
All right, so Councilmember Lucas, does that conclude your?
So then, moving forward from this, what's our general consensus? We're gonna do an internal survey. For sure. Citizen survey. As well.
Possibly.
Possibly, and we wanna do a survey on ourselves as well, and incorporated with that, just knock it all out with one.
Well, we
fell
could
swoop.
do that.
Yeah, like all at once, yeah, heck yeah.
Okay, I'm fair. I'm
And so
okay
the
with that.
next meeting, we will come together and Megan's gonna decide whether she wants it in executive or or open and come up with questions to evaluate her on. And Megan, did you want to add anything? Okay,
So
okay, so we need,
I would think since this council established goals and objectives, we'd ask Megan to come in and say, here are my goals and objectives, and give an evaluation. I mean, all of us who work have goals and objectives.
Mhm.
So
So
why
we would
wouldn't
expect that
say,
next meeting.
here's goals, objectives, here's how we've done. Otherwise, what do you measure on?
Okay. All right, so, I need a motion for moving this to the next meeting.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to move this to the June 17th meeting. We will discuss. We'll get her goals and objectives from her. We'll establish questions for surveys on internal and citizens. Regarding our city manager as well as this council and our current mayor. And there's, I feel like
But do we discuss at that point if we were gonna renew or not? Or no?
no,
No.
after
Yeah.
After
surveys
evaluation.
come in and then, yes, ma'am.
If it's a consensus of the council not to renew, I need to know sooner so that I can make arrangements. This is my livelihood.
And I believe in the contract, it says what, 30 days?
30 seconds.
But I think you guys have already put it on the table for discussion, so if you want to do that sooner, I would appreciate that, so that I can.
Okay. Okay, so do you want to recap the motion for Gio? What do you have so far, Gio?
I have another report.
Okay.
As long as we get a second on that.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
All right, let's discuss and, sorry, let's vote.
Alright.
Okay, all right, so city secretary, we have agreed to the motion as proposed by Councilmember Lucas. All right, excellent. So now we're moving on to executive reports. City mayor report in the interest of time, I'm not gonna have anything this evening. City manager report, there's nothing listed, so council, just a reminder that as per TOMA, cannot discuss or ask questions for the city manager. All right, so city manager, take it away.
So weather permitting, the street department is moving forward with their seal coating. They have seal coated Murphy Street between 14th and Dawson, Avenue I to Reagan. And they're working next on Murphy from Dawson to Howard. The pool successfully opened. We completed the last of the lifeguard training. Parks is working on the irrigation systems for the parks. They're also working with AP on lighting at the Pueblo Nuevo Park. And Streets did currently start the patching at the Alpine Country Club Estates to hit those troubled areas that were mentioned. Our engineer firm, Jacob and Martin, Andy will be in town June 10th and 11th, so we can review all of our current and ongoing projects and next steps. Council has been provided with both the interim and permanent, which we're on hold now. Waiting on fabrication of the clarifier for the wastewater treatment plant, and then the asset management for small system draft has been submitted. We're just waiting for the water development board to come back with any suggestions. The airport layout plan was submitted to Texas Aviation, and city council was provided a draft. It's tentatively set for council approval in August. In working with the county, there are two projects that we're looking into. One regarding the streets and road and bridge, working together on some seal coating paving training out in the Country Club Estates, because it is a larger area for them to be able to move the equipment. The county is looking forward to helping. That's scheduled tentatively for August. It would be continued training for both crews. I have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with the chief, Jennifer, and Councilmember Martinez in regards to the incinerator. The county is offering to procure it with an interlocal agreement for some help with their animals that are at large within the county. And that's what I have.
Great, thank you. All right, so we're gonna move on to council member comments. Councilmember Stevens.
I have nothing else, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Escobedo,
Okay.
Councilmember Lucas, Councilmember Martinez.
I want to thank Eddie Molinari and his crew. They went and put a second disabled parking on the little park. I don't know how the name of the little park by Scoops. It's always full, so it was only one disabled and everybody was parking, so the disabled people were parking far away. So they went and added a second one, so that really helps for older people to find parking, so thank you.
Okay.
They did a good job.
Okay, Councilmember Portillo? Okay, all right, and so that concludes council member comments. And with that, that brings us to item number 14, executive session pursuant to chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. The city council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting for any posted agenda item or to receive advice from an attorney as permitted by law. Tonight, the city council will recess into executive session pursuant to section 551.071 Texas Government Code regarding letter of demand, Stephen Seal, and letter of demand, Living Trust of James Distal. Executive session. May I have a motion, please? Move into executive session. A second. Discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
City Secretary Council voted unanimously to move into executive session at 7:15 PM. Thank you guys for being here this evening.
I'll appreciate if I could have some of y'all in attendance on June for some vice coffee.
Yeah, I'd be there, chief, but I have Sewell Ross Advisory.
What else about
Thank-
coffee? You have cookies, or cake, just coffee?
Did it basically.
Ah, okay.
What time is that again, Chief? 9?
Yeah.
Can I do a brochure? I'll be 9 at 9.
9 in the morning, yeah, the night.
I'll be in California.
Okay, may I have a motion to move back into open session?
We move it back into open session.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
City Secretary Council is moving back into open session at 7:20 PM. That brings us to number 15, action after executive session. May I have a motion?
Council take no action from executive session.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
City Secretary Council has taken no action after executive session, and with that, we are adjourning at 7:20 PM. Oh my